Welcome back to Dateline New Haven. WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Well, it's One City Thursday, folks, our weekly chat, our check-in with the grassroots group of neighborhood leaders preparing to launch a citywide effort this summer that can transform how we all live together in New Haven. As usual, we have the one making it all happen, Kim Harris, the New Harville Community Management Team chair. Are you president or chair, Kim?
I'm the chair.
All right, you're chairing. You're not presiding. Okay. And Kim has organized leaders of all 12 management teams across town to work together to host 60 family-friendly events in each neighborhood this summer. A step one in creating a one-city network. Most exciting thing I've seen happen in years in New Haven. And, it's starting formally June 28th, but we want to let you know about it every step. And two of our guests today are taking place in that. We're going to say hello to Rick Krause and Shannon Leslie. Hope I said your names right.
Yeah.
They are graduate students at Yale who are working to bring hands-on science to our neighborhoods. And thanks to Yale New Haven Hospital for providing support to this program. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back, Kim.
All right. Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a pleasure, as you know, to be here. And my two new best friends. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be
Well,
here.
that's what Kim's been doing. Kim, started out running the community management team in New Harville. That's the neighborhood group that meets with cops and city officials about their issues. And she's been bringing together people in every different part of New Haven. People don't usually know each other. You didn't know each other. I didn't know you guys before today. But we're all going to be working together this summer to be one city and get to know each other and do stuff together and look for the long term. So, Kim, Rick and Shannon, you've been in New Haven about 3 years each?
That's right.
You're both third-year students, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're in a program I never heard of before, the Interdepartmental Neuroscience Program at Yale? That just means a lot of different science programs work together to work at neuroscience.
That's right.
And you're going after your PhDs.
Yes.
Which is a lot of work, especially since you both told me you want to do it in under 7 years. But yet you're finding time to be part of this project that's called Yale Science Diplomats and Open Labs. Is that one project or two?
That's two.
Okay, so you're in these two projects.
That's right. So I'm in with Yale Science Diplomats.
And I'm with Open Labs.
And what are those programs?
So Science Diplomats is a group of graduate students.
Let's get close to the mic.
Science Diplomats is a group of graduate students and postdocs that are really interested in bringing science communication and outreach to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So we mostly focused on adults usually, but so we have this event called Science in the News, to where we bring public lecture series to the libraries. But we're really interested in bringing out some of our science communication to the public where they already are. So we were fortunate enough to get a grant with the Science Festival Alliance, and we're going to be taking some of our expertise in communicating science to existing festivals. And that's how I got in touch with Kim, because I was really interested in trying to make sure that we're bringing stuff to people who are really interested but just might not come out to our events already.
And I should say, One City is about family-friendly events, but that includes adults.
That's
so
right.
It's just like we should care about climate change, help people understand that, or what's happening with our oceans, or
it's just
species disappearing, or
it's hot topic issues, but also just getting people introduced to scientists and knowing that they're part of the community as well, and seeing them as peers and neighbors. So it's not just getting up on the pulpit and the soapbox. It's also just introducing people to really fun science activities.
And is this a national organization, Daniel?
There are lots of different organizations, but this is one of the sister organizations. We have some similar ones at Harvard and other places.
So there's a Yale.
Yeah.
You familiar with the Harvard Forest and their science communications program?
Yes.
Woman named Marissa Weiss.
I think so.
It's my daughter-in-law.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I talked about the adult stuff, but Shannon's group actually focuses mostly on
So
children.
Shannon, your group is called Yale Science Diplomats.
We're Open Labs.
Oh, you're Open Labs. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So is that a national group?
So we're not too far spread yet, but we're along the Northeast at a couple of different Ivy League institutions. And we focus on science outreach for kids. So we work really closely with Yale Pathways to Science. And we're starting to do outreach events in the community as well, hoping to get a few more students involved. We try to make science accessible. So we talk about how we got into science, how there's so many different pathways into
So
science.
basically a kid can look at you and say, oh, especially a little girl, because we know STEM, right? Science, technology, environment, and
Mathematics.
mathematics. It's not environment, it's engineering.
Engineering, yeah.
That not as many women go into that. And that they try to get the kids early saying, hey, girls, you can do that too. But the boys as well, we want to be able as a country to have better engineering knowledge to...
Yeah, just that there's not really one way into science. You don't have to have started as like a kindergartner doing science. You could have There are people who did all sorts of careers. Someone was in a rock band and then decided, hey, I really like acoustics and I want to study physics. So
Oh,
you go
interesting.
into physics from there. So just kind of exposing people to science in all sorts of different ways. And even if you don't want to do a career in science, that science can be a part of your life in other ways. So
How did you get involved in science?
so I have a family history of Alzheimer's disease. And so as a young child, I saw people who were losing their memories. And it was really confusing
Where were
to
you
me.
growing up?
I grew up in Southern California,
Where?
in Irvine. So there was a college nearby, which was actually really nice.
Not a big place for like supporting government support for science, right?
There
It's
was
not like the home of like the whole right-wing Howard Jarvis revolution against taxation and government.
there is
Star of the Beast.
a far right wing, but Irvine itself is more supportive of
Okay.
government funding, and it was a public university, so the University
Okay.
of California,
So
Irvine.
it's like an island in Orange County.
Kind of, yeah.
So I got you off track. So you had family members that had Alzheimer's, and you were a little girl. And did you say, I want to know more about that and do something about that?
Yeah, so I actually reached out to a researcher at the university in my hometown and asked them to come and give a talk to the public about Alzheimer's
Wow.
disease.
How old were you?
I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah,
You were on it.
I was really interested, and so from there I learned
Was
what it
this
was
like a grandmother or a parent or an aunt?
I had a grandmother, an aunt, and a great grandmother.
And as a kid, and tell me if I'm prying too much, I'll shut up. Did you were these people you had real connections to, and then you watched them gradually lose memory?
Yeah, I was pretty close to them, so I'm not sure how familiar your audience is with Alzheimer's disease, but it's a progressive neurodegenerative
Right. So at
disease.
once, like one day they'll know you, and one day they won't. Right.
Yeah, so it's probably a little more slow than that. Most of my family members had it for 16 years, but they begin to forget people they know, usually who they met later in life. So they'll forget grandparent or grandchildren, and then eventually they'll forget children, and very late stage might
So
forget
was that
their
hard
spouse.
for you as a kid?
Yeah, it's also really confusing, I think, as a small child to see someone that you've known your whole life, but they no longer remember you. So I was really interested in what was happening. And
Boy, what a useful way of dealing with that. At 16 years old, getting
Beautiful.
to know a researcher and bringing them to.
yeah, I
Wow.
think it's really it was a nice opportunity for me that I had the support of my family and my community to do this. And I think researchers are much more open to the public engaging them than it might seem. I was a little scared, reaching out to someone who seemed far more advanced than I was, but they really want to engage with the public. We want to share our research with everyone, and we want people to be engaged. And I think someone showing interest is really a positive thing for
And at
most
that point, at
researchers.
16, you say, I want to go into science. I want to study Alzheimer's.
Yeah, pretty much actually. So I was interested in science from that stage, and when I went to college, I had an idea that I wanted to do science. Most of my family none of my family really had done science before then, so I wasn't sure that I would cut it, as they say. So I wasn't positive that I would do it, but I thought I'd give it a shot, and it worked out. And I think hopefully that other people will see that that's what they can do too. You don't have to
Is that
be
what
in
you're
a family
studying?
of
Are you
scientists.
studying Alzheimer's?
I am, yeah. Now I
Wow.
work.
What are you doing?
I work on the molecular mechanisms of Alzheimer's disease, so how proteins are changed in the disease and how that might be affected with age, actually. So
Is the
age a
dream
big
that you'll
factor.
help one day come up with some kind of medicine, figure out what the brain's doing and slow Alzheimer's or even prevent
Yeah,
it?
that would be amazing. So,
That would be amazing. I tell you, it's kind of amazing to have Rick Krause, Shannon Leslie, and Kim Harris here on Dateline New Haven at WNHH FM, your home for community radio. We're talking about, believe it or not, we're talking about one city. We're getting back to that, about the summer in New Haven and people coming together. And we're talking to two Yale grad students in neuroscience, Rick Krause and Shannon Leslie, about a program they're doing to bring science to the people. And Kim Harris is going to be giving them that opportunity as one city. Philomena Ayala has been listening in. She gives a thumbs up, says nice parks in Irvine and devastating illness for Alzheimer's. Thank you for listening, Philomena. So, Rick and Shannon, how did you get involved with Kim Harris, and what brought? I heard the groups you're involved in, which is to bring science to adults in Rick's case and children in Leslie and Shannon's. How did you hook up with Kim Harris in New Hallville? I mean, you're at Yale. You're not usually at the New Hallville Community Management Team, right?
Right. Well, I live on Dwight Street, And so I had started attending the Dwight leadership meetings with Florida there.
I mean the community management team meetings.
That's right. Yes.
And Florida, those really are Florida's meetings. If
She
anyone's
does.
walked that community management team, it's not like, some touchy-feely long process about who's going to talk when and what we're talking about. Those are Florida.
Yeah, I was very scared to talk up the first time. I wasn't sure if I should.
She is the queen. She is the queen. Yes.
But she was extremely excited. And so Shannon and I went there because we were really interested in talking about how could we just, start doing science activities in the neighborhood. And it was brought up that they were going to have a screening of Hidden Figures as a movie in the
I
park.
love that movie.
Right. So for everyone that's not familiar, it's a story about some of the African-American mathematicians who were behind the space race at NASA. So they did a lot of really important calculations.
1960s, right?
Yeah, I think so. So we are going to be bringing an inflatable planetarium to Dwight area so that the kids can go in and see all the stars, and then also.
Is that this weekend at the fair or no?
No, this weekend. This weekend's a different one. That's just the Dwight Festival, but we're going to be doing that at the end of June. I believe that's the 22nd or something like that.
Great. Oh wow.
I believe it's the Parks and Recs Friday flicks that they do.
Okay.
Movies in the park.
Are they going to be doing Hidden Figures?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Janelle Monáe, right? I didn't even know about her until that movie. I started watching her videos. So anyway, little side point. So you guys decide you want to bring science to neighborhoods in New Haven. You
Right.
got in through the Dwight management. Do you also live in Dwight, Shannon?
I live up in East Rock, but
Okay. But then how'd you get from there to Kim Harris? I have a guess, but tell me.
Yeah, so I also working with the Pathways to Science program, and so Karen King at the Office of New Haven and State Affairs, she was sort of, talking to me about the different leadership meetings and management team meetings, and I just looked up, I kept hearing a lot about the One City initiative at the meetings that I went to, so I just looked up the website and emailed the One City initiative email, and I got a response like immediately from Kim.
Really?
And either Kim or Nina, and it was we just talked on the phone. And it was extremely useful. So
because Kim's got a tall order, which she's so confident about it, so I'm confident about it. Which is that we're going to have 60 events in 12 neighborhoods, 60 days in a row from June 28th to the end of August that people can go to. So I guess it didn't hurt to hear two motivated, young, smart people who bring science to people say, "I got stuff I want to do."
Yeah, that's right.
What'd you think, Kim, when you got the email? Why did you get back so fast?
Oh my goodness! Could you imagine, Paul? I wrote some notes because, really, for the last 4 months, well, since January, since we pitched the idea out to the mayor and just to everybody in New Haven, I have been hearing some incredible stories. I mean, Shannon just shared her story. These are the things that really.
That could change a kid's life.
Oh my goodness!
A kid who's like hang out in the summer, kind of hot, and get us some ice cream, and all of a sudden you meet the Shannon person who tells you this whole thing.
How about let's
That could
add
change their
meaning to
life.
our lives and let's add some purpose to our lives. And now
Yeah.
I'm living for something. And not only that, she's living in her talent. Rick's living in his talent. And how easy is it to motivate or to maneuver yourself in the thing that you love to do?
So you're good at getting people signed up to do stuff. What'd you sign them up to do?
So Rick said, well, Kim, I would love to have a table at your grand kickoff. I said, what?
Table? That's not that's just, what's this table thing? You got to do stuff.
I said, I would love to. And he said, on top of that,
Okay.
he said, there's things happening in different neighborhoods. We know things are happening in East Rock. They have a planetarium. But he said, Kim, this grant, we really want to get into the places that are underserved, that really don't get a chance. The kids don't touch scientists. They don't get a chance to be around people like me. I said, oh, my goodness, Rick is speaking to my heart. Okay, where, when, how many times do you want to do it? When can we make it happen? And the conversation just really kind of exploded from there.
So now do you specifically to have events you're going to do this summer as part of One City? And if so, let me know what those are going to be.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the specific areas that they want to target and how we can bring them in. The Learning Corridor, I know you met with Doreen. She is so excited about bringing the sciences to the center of New Hallville.
So give me an example of an event you might do in New Hallville or another neighborhood this summer. You tell me about one about the bouncing planetarium at the movie. Tell me about some other stuff you might do. What kind of events?
So we have a few different demos that we do on a semi-regular basis. We have one about angular momentum, so this actually works really well with the planetarium. You can learn about how stars orbit the galaxy by studying how you spin around on a stool. So it's really a lot of fun and
Oh, how
interactive.
fun.
For
Come
the
on,
students.
Paul. Come on.
Yeah, that's a good one. Was wondering where that was going to end up.
Yeah.
So you actually have an event where you talk about angular, what's it called again? Momentum?
It's called
Momentum.
angular momentum, yeah.
So like when I'm going to go to One City site, this if I got some kids I'm with one day, I say, what are we going to do today? I'm going to say, I'm going to go to Dwight or East Rock, and there's going to be an angular momentum event where my kid's going to bounce around and learn how the stars move?
I think so. The great idea is that we're trying to plug into existing events already and partner with the people who are designing those to find a science
Oh.
activity that interfaces with that.
Oh, okay.
So,
that makes sense.
like we do
with
with
the
the-
movie.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so, for instance, if there is something to do with bikes or something like that, we have like a little
Do a
demonstration.
lot of stuff with bikes.
Exactly. So we can take a cockroach's leg and put little pins in it and record from the neurons that are inside of it. So you can hear all the nerve impulses that are coming through the leg, and we show that the kids, that's exactly how your leg works. We're just not going to take your leg and put pins in it.
Oh, it
So,
sounds like you
Paul,
have fun doing that. Right?
Imagine this, Paul. I pitched this idea of what Rick had told me on the phone to my preschool teachers. They're like, oh, Miss Kim, look, they went and got all these science books because they're trying to create an activity, a weeks-long activity, so that we can embed something within what we do in our lesson plans and bring Shannon and Rick over. And we're already talking about the lessons with preschoolers. So when he told me about the concept, I said, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait to share this with other people who might just really inspire kids to just look at things differently.
And we're looking at them on Dateline New Haven, WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. We're talking about the One City Summer we're planning with events in all the neighborhoods for the families. And we're talking with Rick Krause and Shannon Leslie, Yale neuroscience grad students who are part of two different organizations that are bringing science to the people. And they're going to be part of that this summer. And we're also talking to Kim Harris, who makes it all happen. Philomena Ayala writes in again, how about science for the Hill and Fairhaven area? You should also work with Hunter for progressive action. She says, she too lives in East Rock. I'm so glad that we're continuing to encourage kids to love science. It's important. So, Rick Krause, tell me about how you got involved in science. Did you have another story like that as a kid, that there was some reason something was happening in your life? You said, I want to grow up and figure something out.
I just kind of stumbled into science, actually. So
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Florida, in North Florida, and I didn't really.
What part, Jacksonville? Or?
So just inland of Jacksonville a little bit. So Palatka, it's a pretty smallish town. So I didn't really enjoy science in high school. I didn't like learning out of textbooks for it, but I thought it was interesting personally. I liked video games and sci-fi stuff. So when I got to University of South Florida, I got a really great opportunity to do some research, and I kind of just dove in. So I was working at a company to try and grow brains outside of the body, basically.
Really?
Yeah. So it's to use as a therapeutic. So
That
understanding.
kind of looks like my kombucha dish.
Yeah, it looks just
With
like
the
that.
scobies, yeah.
Yeah. So, I was interested in doing that sort of stuff, and using it to screen for either, new drugs to help with stuff like Alzheimer's or infectious diseases of the brain.
What was fun to you about it? So you said you don't like textbooks. You like to be hands-on. You like video games. Was this like playing a video game?
Yeah, it was a lot of learning. It was really difficult because I had no idea what I was doing. But I had a really great mentor who helped me out and, basically held my hand along the way, teaching me how to grow, brain cells.
We
outside of the
often
body.
hear, Rick, about whether video games are destroying our kids' brains or giving them talents so they'll be great at blowing up other countries with drones or figuring out solutions to our brain and disease. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
I think everything with moderation, or most things with moderation, I guess.
Is it possible to do video games in moderation?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do them. I still play video games. I like them. I just don't.
What's your
have a lot.
favorite one?
I don't know. I know I'm playing Zelda right now on the Switch. It's pretty fun.
Okay. But then you applying those skills. I mean, are those really, in all seriousness, are these skills talents that kids are developing? Because some people worry, well, they're not going to be good at talking to other people or dealing in the real world. But are these actually giving them some science skills and developing skills that if you reach them to your summer programs like you and Shannon are doing with Kim, are you actually getting kids who might be starting out with some kind of skills you could apply?
So I think it's important to realize that science isn't one thing. And if it was just one thing, it would be problem solving. And so a lot of things that happen in video games are really just figuring out how to make something work that isn't working for some reason, or trying to understand something. Also, there is some component to science that's really fine dexterity skills. So, I got pretty good at video games, and I do pretty good with, tools inside the lab. And I think they're probably correlated. But, I don't think that it's great to write off video games, but I wouldn't say that it's a fast track to the science path.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah.
So this summer, Rick and Shannon, how much do you realistically think you're going to be doing? Like every week you're going to be somewhere in New Haven, you alone or with some friends, doing some kind of science demonstration inside another event?
So we're really moving to make the call out to other graduate students because obviously while we're both very motivated, we're also doing research at the same time. So we can't be out somewhere every day or every week. But we're trying to get a bunch of graduate students that live in different neighborhoods. So if anyone's listening, please send us an email.
How would people get involved in this?
So you can send an email to either one of us. I don't know if you guys have, we can put up a link with our email addresses, but mine is richard.krause, Crouse, @yale.edu. So you can reach out to us through that. And Yeah.
Now, is this new for both of you, or have you done this work in past years? Can you tell me about a specific project you did in sharing your case with kids, or Rick with adults?
Sure. So we've been doing demos in conjunction with another Open Labs event called Science Cafes. So this is where graduate students come and they give like a 10-minute talk about their research at a level that's approachable for kids. And so they give a 10-minute talk, and then we have our demos before and after. And so they've been a really big hit. So we have a DNA extraction demo, which is a little bit longer, but it goes really well with people who are studying genes and biology, because you get to actually see the DNA, and then you get to hear someone talk about what they do with research in DNA.
I remember as a kid, what first got me reading about Watson Crick was the whole interwoven strand part. That really got my imagination. I always thought that would be good to combine with like art projects for kids. Do DNA and RNA, because it's also color coded in your charts, you know. But that has to do with why, like, I got a big nose, or why I like to run, or something, you know.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the fact that they're hands-on, I think, is really nice for kids, so they actually get to like pick up the DNA, and it's kind of a mess of DNA and protein, so you can actually see it, and it looks just kind of like.
Can you tell me about a day that you particularly remember, one kid you interacted with, or something you did that the kid reacted to?
Sure. So actually, I do the angular momentum demo more often.
That's a fun one, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So the kids are sitting on this stool and they're spinning, and you have them make a hypothesis. So they guess what's going to happen, and then they get to test it. So it's just like science in real life. And it's always really exciting to see their reaction, because kids are so sure that they're going to be correct. And when they're correct or they're not correct, their faces just light up and they're like, oh my gosh, I figured this out. And I think that's really cool. That's definitely what we're looking for.
And how about you, Rick? Tell me about a moment you had maybe in New Haven or another city when you were doing science and getting the word out.
Yeah, so with Science Diplomats, one of the things that's really great about them is you can come to them with ideas about new activities you want to do. And one idea was called the Flipped Science Fair. So we get grad students and postdocs to present their research to middle schoolers in a science fair setting. So I actually do focus on the kids as well in Science Diplomats. And basically the idea was we were talking it up for a long time. We were training the presenters. Shannon was one of the presenters. She was talking about her Alzheimer's research, and we were in the auditorium, and
Where?
At the medical campus at the Hope Building. So there were about 80 kids in the auditorium. They're all getting ready, and we're introducing them to the idea that you're going to be the science fair judge today. Your idea is to judge how well the presenters are doing at explaining their research. And if you
so
don't,
that helps them pay attention.
That's right. And if you don't understand it, it's not your fault. It's the presenter's fault. And I was, right before I was doing all that, I asked, does anybody know why you're here? And there was this kid who shot his arm up right away, and I was like, okay, what is it? And he's like, we're here to be critical science fair judges. And I was like, absolutely right. That's right.
So. All right, so Kim Harris, can you give us, before we go, an update with One City? We've been talking every week about how the plans are evolving. I know June 28th is a formal kickoff, and there will be a table, I guess, with Shannon and Rick there. And then you go into the races, 60 days, 60 events, 12 neighborhoods.
Yes.
So what's been the latest since you were here last week?
So we confirmed a couple of more people. Now, last week we had Kim Holmes here.
Mm-hmm.
She and her
Seventh-day
sister,
Adventist.
Seventh-day Adventists, and they're vegan cooks,
Vegan
and they're
cooks.
singers. So I got on
They
the phone.
sing for their supper with no meat.
I'm telling you. They got on the phone with them on Wednesday. The sisters, they're sporadically all over the place. And they said, Kim, we would love to come down. They're going to come down for the press conference, which is going to be on June 14th at 1 o'clock at City Hall. And they're going to do a little singing and have some samples out there for people to test and see. And they're confirming for the actual event where they're going to be doing vegan cooking classes for people. So that's confirmed. The press conference is confirmed. And as we talked about before, training is 100% confirmed. Before we talked about, we have
and training we talked about as part of One City. So not only is it doing 60 events in 60 days in 12 neighborhoods, it's also about long-term, getting neighborhoods working together. And that's what's been exciting for those of us watching what you're doing is people in Westville, in New Hallville, in Fairhaven, and Hill, who might not have ever met each other, are all working together, going to each other's neighborhoods. You're steering people to small businesses who will offer discounts to people who participate. So you're looking beyond.
Yes, absolutely. So the training is 100%.
And you're training people
confirmed.
how to be involved in their management teams and take leadership to keep this going.
Leadership, conflict resolution, how to set up your 501(c), how to do a business, And I talked to JR of Make Haven, the executive
Uh-huh.
director. So he's like, Kim, yes, of course, Logan, yes, I'm on board. What do I need to do? So I'm going to have more conversation with him. And he's going to be on board with making this event a successful.
More
event.
hands-on.
Yeah,
You can even call it science.
Absolutely.
So I believe there is some kind of angular momentum involved in some of the stuff they make it in
Absolutely.
Make Haven.
He wants to get his doors open to, once again, the population probably in Newhallville don't go to Make Haven, and a lot of them don't know about Make Haven. So we're introducing people to things that will help take us out of survival mode and stimulate some ideas. And
Well, I like that.
yes.
We're going out of survival mode
Yes.
and we're going to thriving mode.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Kim Harris, no one's doing that more than you. And so I like the way that Kim met Rick and Shannon here.
Loving it.
That here you have our 2 Yale graduate students who are trying to bring science to the people.
Yes.
And you have Kim Harris, they're bringing people together all around town this summer. You've teamed up. One of the many reasons this is going to be the best summer in our lifetimes in New
Yes.
Haven. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for everything you do, Kim.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on Dateline New Haven. Thanks to our guests, Kim Harris, Rick Krause, and Shannon Leslie. Keep it up, folks. You're on the right path. Thanks to Yale New Haven Hospital for providing support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now, we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.